Hello and welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogrammed with Carrie Smith. This is a new channel. If it's your first time here, I don't know if you can hear it, but that's the daily siren that happens in my new town at noon. I still forget that it happens. We were going to start a few minutes late. It just at noon, it just runs for like a solid minute or two. Anyway, welcome to the show. If it's your first time here, this is a new channel, so please hit subscribe. I'm not going to keep our guests waiting. I'm just going to bring them on with the siren because why not? Please welcome two of my friends, Kelly Lamb, who some of you may have seen before. I've chatted with her before. And my friend Christian. Oh, crap. I've never said your last name out loud before.
Yeah, it's Boutin.
Say it.
Boutin.
Boutin.
But you can say it. Yeah, that's great.
Well, welcome. Another Canadian. Two
Yes.
Canadians today.
That's right. The politest of them all.
Yeah. It's very good to be here. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. The last time I saw you, Christian, you were leaving Canada. You had just left and you were coming to stay in the States for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand you've returned now.
Yes. Well, yeah, last time we hung out in Georgetown, and after that I went east of Florida, and then now I'm back. Sad face.
Are you comfortable talking about like why are you still planning on leaving?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No secrets. I'm in the best of worlds. I'll be leaving again in a more permanent fashion. Leaving Quebec, that's more or less a guaranteed. Leaving Canada, that's depending on whether or not I can. Which right now I can't.
Why can't you leave right now?
Well, so there are two reasons. There's the visa thing in the US. You need to be able to work in the US. For that, you need to get a visa, and that's not exactly obvious. And the second one is that there's still a vaccine requirement for land crossing into the US from Canada. And by plane, our own government is preventing me from boarding a plane or a train.
Wait a minute.
Indeed.
Wait, so the U.S. is preventing you from land crossing?
Yes.
Okay, but then also the Canadian government won't let you get on a plane or train.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, you can't even travel domestically in Canada. You can't go across the provinces on a plane. You can't go on via rail. It's crazy. And there's still mandates for all federally regulated employees and institutions as well. So it's crazy here. We're the last country. I think we're the only country in the world that has mandates for vaccines for domestic travel.
That's crazy.
I can buy a boat. If I want to leave, I can buy a boat and
or plane.
sail away or swim across the ocean.
Okay, there's something else weird that you told me about when you first got out of Canada, and you told me you had to get out before
November
Biden.
8th.
Right, before Biden. It was November 8th, before he did this thing where you couldn't come in unless you had the vaccine.
Yes.
But they also had some crazy bureaucracy where they would not allow you to drive your own car, right? Like, didn't they fly?
So I had to have my car shipped from Montreal to Boston, then fly from Montreal to Boston, pick up my car, and then do the rest of the road trip.
So they fly someone in from California to drive your car?
They flew someone from California. Cost a fortune, just to bring my car across the border.
The government they're
great at everything.
Yeah.
Everything they do, everything they touch just turns to gold, right?
Yeah, it's insane. It's sad because I've been a patriot most of my life, and now every time I talk about Canada, I'm so embarrassed. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's awful. Well, it's a terrible feeling. It's a sad feeling. I grieve it. I feel like I've lost my patriotism. I don't consider myself Canadian anymore. I just consider myself a Saskabusher. I don't identify myself as a Canadian anymore. It's terrible.
I'm starting to identify more as a Texan than an American. I mean, that's true.
Fair enough.
Just happening. Hey, so I just skipped right into the conversation about Canada. Just for anyone who's not familiar with you guys, can you tell us and tell each other a little about yourself? You are two very interesting people to me because you've both run for office. And I think that's an interesting fact. But just tell people where they can find you and something about you.
Who's going first?
All right. Well, I could go first.
Go for it.
So I'm Christian Boutin, christianboutin.com. Most of my money I've earned through computer programming. I've worked in the video game industry, and that's how I've built up my bank accounts. After coming back from Florida last summer, I decided to run for the People's Party of Canada in Justin Trudeau's riding. So I actually went face to face with Justin Trudeau during the election.
That's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a throwaway, of course. Like you're not gonna beat Justin Trudeau in his own backyard. But it was good to put up the signs with my face on it everywhere in his area, basically. So that was fun. And then, I think Viva Freu came out with the expression, I'm going to run for my country before I run from my country. And so I did. The election came, went, and then when all the craziness at the border came, I said, nah, I'm out of here. Maybe it's going to, I would have hoped for it to be permanent, but I had no idea if that was going to pan out. And I was like, worst comes to worst, it's going to be an epic road trip. Let's go. So I went there. So other than that, I'm just a big mouth on Twitter. So I comment a lot.
I've said before the break, before we started, I love your T-shirt. What does that mean?
Well, I'm a fan of NASCAR. And you might have heard about this Brandon Brown guy. He's very good.
Cool. Thank you. Kelly, what about you?
Well, I'm a former. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, you also ran for office.
I did. Same party. 2019 election. I ran when we first started the party here in Saskatchewan in my riding. I didn't have any really famous opponents, but it was very, very cool. Just a good experience. Good policies, So same idea as you, Christian. I kind of felt like I have to do something and I don't just want to flee. I have to try. I have to do something. So stood up and did that. And since then have done a little bit of YouTubing, a little bit of reporting for Rebel News. I'm just kind of on a hiatus doing some health, personal stuff at the moment. And yeah, I'm a musician, bit of a YouTuber. It's pretty casual. So,
well, I'm really happy you could both be here because as an American, maybe I'm in the minority, but I'm kind of ignorant about Canada. And without realizing it, I tend to think of it as just one big place, and it's very different. It's not a monolith. And I know there's a lot that's been going on, and I have been paying attention to the news up there. In fact, I did a poll. I've never done a poll before. I did a poll on Twitter the other day, and I was like, who's the biggest tool? And it was the choices were Gavin Newsom, Justin Trudeau, or Beto. And you would think that most of the people who follow me are not from Canada. And Justin Trudeau swept that poll, guys. I have to report.
Winner.
He was over 60% of the votes. People know what a tool he is.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I know about Canada. Why don't you guys just give me, whoever would like to, just your take on what's been unfolding there in the past couple of years?
Go patriarchy. You can start first, Christian.
No, not this time. You go.
Okay. What's happening in Canada? Is that just in general? Is that the question?
I mean, just in general. I think.
Wow. Think how much time you have.
No, yeah, but I mean, here I think it's probably the similar, but there might be some interesting differences. Like here, I would say if somebody asked me what's been happening in America, I would say there is a tight control over the media and entertainment, like celebrities. They're all speaking in lockstep over all of the Democratic Party and even parts of the Republican Party. Like they're all speaking the same stuff. They're pushing false narratives. They're calling what's false true and what's true false, engaging in a lot of projection and gaslighting of the American people. And we've seen a loss of personal liberties and also, private property rights, and it's concerning.
Yeah, so we're basically you guys, except for we're what you're heading towards. So I would like to say this is a warning show to Americans because we are basically what you just described in a nutshell.
Times 10.
To the end. Yeah, exactly. Times 10, because we have so much centralized government control. We don't have state autonomy like you have state autonomy. So we have some provincial autonomy for education, healthcare, but there's so much centralized government bureaucracy touching everything that we do, and it's all out of Ottawa. So that's a huge issue here. Plus, we have the lovely tax-funded media, places like the CBC, and then we have massive subsidies for all of the other media, including our conservative opponent media. It's all the same pool. And same with our establishment parties. same idea. You know, they're all kind of preaching the same narrative. There's things you just can't discuss. You don't discuss abortion in Canada. It's a foregone conclusion. We love that stuff up here. We're inviting all you Americans to come up and do it. It's crazy up here how woke we are. I feel like we've completely lost the plot. We're fully ideologically moving at crazy speeds, full ahead off of a cliff. America feels like it has a chance because you have a constitution. We don't even have that. We don't have a right to free speech. We don't have a right to bear arms. We have a piece of paper that we've learned over the pandemic means very, very little. Our Charter of Rights and Freedoms means almost nothing because it can be superseded by the state at any time. So it's been really eye-opening. I don't know about you, Christian, but this last couple of years, I knew it was bad, but I had no idea how little checks and bounds there are in Canada for dealing with things turning into tyranny. And we don't have very many. That's what I've learned. The state still has a few. You guys have some processes you have to go through to sort of take over as one person taking over the nation. We don't have that. That's kind of my nutshell, 40,000 foot bird's eye view.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the pandemic basically showed us that we don't have a charter and we don't have a constitution, because if someone coughs somewhere, someone can just say, well, that's it, someone coughed, so you don't have any right to anything. I mean, we've had checkpoints between provinces. That's never been seen in the history of our country. If I wanted to go to New Brunswick, which is another province, there was a checkpoint and you had to fill in a government form stating why going there was essential for you, or if you were vaccinated. Yeah. So imagine a checkpoint between Texas and Alabama, or Texas and Arkansas.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all of that, except you don't even have the presumption of these rights that are supposed to be protected.
I think the people who wrote our charter or our constitution, they were a little bit more sneaky in the sense that, like, I think the American Constitution has this very idealistic, naive thing where it's absolute, when it's great because it survives time. You know, it's real. People take it seriously. But here it's like, oh, we're just going to put in this provision that says, well, it's nice on paper, but if anything happens, it doesn't mean really. It doesn't really mean anything.
It's a feel-good piece of paper. That's it.
Yeah. And I've been like, at the beginning of this crisis, what I was telling my friends was like, the courts are going to get us out of here because they can't, like, everything they're doing is illegal. So the courts are just going to say, you can't do that. But the courts have been they've been in lockstep.
They have.
We don't have opposing power. That's the thing. We just have one monolith of power and everyone's on board.
Yeah,
right.
Even opposing parties just turn into little coalitions to do whatever they want to do and take over. Right now, our NDP, which is the farther left party, is kind of joining up with the Liberals. So they're just a big super party now. It's like a super majority, and they're just pushing through leftist policy like crazy. They're actually discussing at this point, they're debating it now, whether 16-year-olds should vote in the House of Commons. And it wouldn't surprise me if it passed. The NDP actually had that on their policy or on their platform, I think, this last election. And I'm sure the Green Party had it on their policy in 2019. I recall mocking it quite a bit then. And I'm sure that all those three parties are probably going to come together and say, sure, why not? Because, of course, it would benefit them. That's the group that they're trying to target. That's the ones that are obsessed with the climate eco stuff. That's the ones that are being indoctrinated at this time. So it's kind of nuts. We are just on
our children.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. You know, that. Yeah.
You can't drink, but you can vote.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing.
There's so many things going on here at the same time, and they all point in a really bad direction. And every week I dread the headlines that I'm going to see. I dread what's going to come next. It's awful.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any desire or are you considering leaving Canada, Kelly? Is it just Christian, or are you also like, I want to get out of here?
We've been making plan Bs and Cs. We're sort of stuck here for the moment. I'm like you, Carrie, I'm a person of faith. So I'm sort of just trying to follow where God is leading. And I think we are to be here for now. It just seems to be everything's working in that direction. But we do have plan Bs and Cs in place to go either south to the States if it's ever able. My husband he's actually from like the third influx of the Pilgrims way back when. So that's pretty cool. So he's got some pretty staunch history. I also have history in North Dakota through my grandma. So I think it's in our blood and we both would like to return there. But as Christian said, it's not that easy, even without the vaccine mandates. There's the visa issue, which is tough. So I see people in the chat saying we should just walk across the southern border. I've heard that a few times. I've looked at other places. Yeah, right. Costa Rica, etc. My husband's into crypto. So, we try to look at places that are a little more free in that respect, but I don't know where to go. The world's gone mad. And the States is looking, it was such a bastion of freedom. And I still see many individual states like that and individual Americans like that. At least you guys will stand up and fight. We won't do that. Culturally, we're just so pushed over. We don't have that basis of liberty you have. We were just more monarchy, moved over to another country. You guys rebelled from the monarchy. So I feel like that's part of our downfall. We just don't have, we're too apathetic, we're too nice, we're too genteel, and we're just heading in a really bad direction. I don't know where things are going to go. Yeah, I'd leave I'd leave right now if I could. It's just not I wouldn't that simple. Be here. I feel stuck, but at least I'm in Saskatchewan. It's the only place I feel that's left other than Alberta. Maybe has any sanity. All conservative MPs voted in, representatives basically. And it's a little more normal, old school, rural flyover country. Think North Dakota. That's kind of where I'm at. So
flyover country.
Yeah.
So what about the resistance? Are there people? Is there a growing? I know you say the culture's a little different. You're more like Canada's more like pushovers. But this trucker rebellion that we saw, that was impressive. And watching it here from the States, I remember people asking, why didn't Texas truckers do this? And it's like, well,
it was impressive.
Yes.
Yeah. So what about the resistance? Is there a growing sense
I wouldn't say
discontent?
it's growing. I'd say it has grown and it is what it is. And, and that's
it's not enough. It's not enough. And we're so big that you have these pockets of freedom groups and protests, but we're not, you see these mass protests in the UK and in the EU, people are crowded together in thousands and thousands. The protests at Ottawa, the Freedom Convoy, was the first time we saw mass numbers. Otherwise, it's just pockets. We're just too big and we can't seem to get enough people to make a difference. And you can't get enough people in the right voting regions where all the votes matter to make a difference politically. And I think that's the biggest problem.
I think it was our best shot, the trucker convoy, and I think it was handled by the protesters themselves perfectly. It's like the best outcome that could happen up until the point where Trudeau just sent in his Stasi to clear the streets, and nobody cared when he cleared the street. Everyone was like, because the media is entirely controlled, so you only had one narrative. If we're not watching Rebel News, which is the one I'm watching, but I mean, if you're watching anything that's on regular TV or even mainstream online social media, all you're getting is, what are they complaining about? Why are they there? Thank God, at last, the citizens of Ottawa can have peace.
They were traumatized, phantom honking. We literally had articles about phantom honking
syndrome.
What is
like
phantom
trauma.
Honking?
People in Ottawa
go ahead. You explain.
Traumatized that they could still hear truck honkings even when there were no truck honking.
That's how I am with the siren here every day.
That's it. You were the only one hearing it. I wasn't hearing it.
I didn't really hear it either. No.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Actually, it's not that perceptible.
But, God.
And there was the Rolling Thunder protest, like I think 2 weeks ago, where it was bikers that went to Ottawa just to do a pass around the war memorial, the war veteran monument, and the people of Ottawa were like, we've already been traumatized enough. They're trying to turn like the trucker protest into January 6th, which January 6th is not even January 6th, right? So it's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy. They found, one or two bad bags with flags who arguably could be planted, and they just use that to run the Nazi narrative the entire time. Meanwhile, there's little kids and bouncy castles and barbecues and concerts and freedom flags. Like, it was just such a nice, uniting, unifying. I have some friends that went out there and did independent journalism and talked for hours with people, and just hearing their stories, and the opposite world that people are living in when they believe our media is stunning to me. They live in a different universe, and it's not reality. And that's the reality, though, that we're heading towards. We're heading towards a strange, false. It does feel like there's some sort of weird parallel universe going on in Canada, and I didn't realize I entered it. Yeah.
I imagine it's like that the Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie. Like, I just imagine everyone, especially if you're in one of those really blue cities, everyone's just looking to see who's like not one of us, you know?
Yeah.
Like, not you.
I can't wait for tomorrow for the mask mandates to be gone. And just,
you guys are just dealing with that now. Unreal.
I'll go out and see like just how bad the damage is, because
you're in Ottawa.
Montreal.
Gosh, see? I'm terrible. You're in Montreal.
Yeah.
They still have a mask mandate?
Quebec still has a mask mandate. Yeah. The whole province of Quebec.
Do people actually comply still?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think in the last 2 weeks, I started to notice a little bit of relaxation. You see a lot more masks under the nose. But before that, I mean, you can't enter a store without a mask. You'll be told by the clerk. You'll be told by a client. You'll be told.
You can't
imagine it. You can't imagine it. Like, as someone who spent the last 5.5 months in the US, you can't imagine what life here is like.
It's bizarre, Carrie. It's people don't treat each other normal. Even in my wonderful, rural kind of warm and fuzzy country area where people just didn't. People are so common sense, but people have changed. It's really shifted, that intense propaganda. Yeah. Oh, I hear music. There we go.
Sorry.
No worries. Yeah. No worries. Yeah, it's people are different, and it's really sad. You see a lot of fear. And I mean, you have that in the States. That's everywhere, right? You guys had the same propaganda, but it's really, really noticeable here, and it's really shifted. And yeah, people are compliant. We were considered the outliers. People made fun of us in the media. Oh, Saskatchewan's got a low vaccination rate. We have 82% vaccinated double. It's crazy. We have really high vaccine rates in Canada. I think upwards of 90% that are double jabbed, right? Yeah. So all of this stuff, always a guilt trip. And Saskatchewan's just all those conservatives don't care about anybody else. And it really got to people, because the worst thing you can tell a Canadian is that they're selfish and mean. It seems like people just don't want to be called mean. They're so scared of it. And that messaging worked. I have to say 75% of the people that got jabbed were probably done out of coercion, or just because this carrot was dangled in front of them. We're going to open up, you guys, if you just do this one more thing. Just 70% with this many people jabbed, just this many masks, you have to be complying. It's going to go away. And people believed it, and they believed it right to the bitter end. Even in my province, very few people went maskless until about 3 days post mask mandate ending, and then they felt comfortable. And it's hard to see. People have they've lost the plot, and they're living in an alternate reality. And I feel sorry for a lot of folks, because it's a scary, dismal reality where everybody's a biohazard and there's no hope. I don't want to live like that, but that's how Canada feels.
Default human is a pathogen now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's psychologically, like, to your point, both your points, it affects you. It affects you over a long period of time. And Absolutely. I've even known people who have moved here to Texas, which has been a bit more free, especially outside of Austin. If you're in some of the smaller towns outside of Austin, it's been more free. I mean, during the 2 years of lockdowns and mask wearing, I never really wore a mask. I can count the number of times on one hand. And I would choose, and I would just flout the ones that did have mandates, like the stores. I would just go in and find out which ones enforced it or not. And a lot of them didn't enforce it. They would just let me walk in maskless, even though they had signs. So it was that kind of, like, just very kind of, even in places where we had the mandates, a lot of times they weren't enforced. It was sort of lax, I guess is the way. But I've known people who've moved here to a more lax place, from a place like California where it was very strict. And even if they're freedom loving people and they're moving here for the freedom, having spent time in that environment, it takes a while to untrain your brain, because now you're viewing every human as this potential biohazard, as you said, Christian. And it's just and
for me, it took 5 seconds. It took 5 seconds to be gone. Absolutely gone. Like,
did you love Texas?
Oh, I loved it. I miss it so much. And you want to know what the funny thing? So I spent 5.5 months in the States. I hung out with you guys. I hung out with lots of people, all like 40, 50% vaxxed. Come back here, spend 2 weeks after my quarantine, go visit my dad, who is triple jabbed, and I got COVID.
What?
What?
I got COVID. I got COVID the first afternoon I hung out back here with someone fully vaccinated in mask mandated Quebec. I get COVID.
Did they think you picked it up in filthy Texas?
No, because when I came back, I had to stay at home for 2 weeks. I couldn't even leave my house for 2 weeks when I came back.
Oh, the quarantine stuff is intense.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't imagine. Again, that's just a mind F. Because
that includes going to the grocery store. Like you can't go to the grocery
leave my house. That's none of your.
And they will call and they will show up and they will harass you. When I went to the States last year for surgery and came back, we were on a medical exemption and we weren't supposed to have to quarantine. But imagine that the government screwed up and the two departments didn't inform each other, the border and the health departments. And so we just fought with bureaucracy for 4 days while I was trying to recover from surgery. And the government was calling me while I was sick and puking. And I was so mad. That was actually the moment that I took my Canadian flag out front. We have a wooden flag for decor and I actually threw it in the garbage. I was so mad. When we drove back from the States, we hit the border because we drove down, flew, because there was, at that time, I believe it was, we couldn't fly, but we could drive down there. And so we flew down, and when we hit the border and came into Canada, the energy changed. I don't want to say that because I'm an old New Ager. I don't want to sound all woo-woo, but it shifted. We went to that border place and there was someone denying a man entry whose wife was going through chemo. She was a Canadian citizen. They were married and he wanted to go visit her in treatment, but he took the wrong test and had to drive 2 hours back. And he was almost in tears and they were refusing him. And I just said to my husband, where the hell are we? What is this country? This isn't the country I love. Yeah. And I'm reading the warnings. And if you do not do this test, you will be fined $750,000 if you don't do the PCR test. If you do not answer the phone calls, if you here's a number, here's a punishment. It read like China, and I just felt so uncomfortable, and I didn't even want to be here anymore. And that's kind of where it started.
Government tyranny out of control. It's authoritarianism. It's every
for our health.
Yeah. Every government that we've heard about throughout history that's done horrible things. That's what the Canadian government's doing. And as an outsider, and I'm sorry, I'll let you finish, Christian, but as an outsider, when I saw Trudeau, who is an authoritarian, calling the truckers who are fighting for more freedoms for people, calling them authoritarians, that's when I was like, this guy's a psychopath. Because
he's a psychopath.
He's inverting reality.
They called me twice during my quarantine. So every day you get sent this email that you have to fill in this form on the internet. But twice an actual human being called me. And it's funny because they're calling you as we care about you and we want to know that you're all right. But really they're asking questions they're asking you to snitch on yourself, right? They're
that's
like,
right.
So what do you do to get fresh air? Must be hard, right?
Are you going outside your zone?
Are you going outside your house? No, I just opened the windows. Oh, okay. You didn't have visitors, right? You didn't have visitors.
We actually
it's
true. We felt like we couldn't do anything. We had to grab something from the groceries, and we ran out of eggs, and my husband grabbed eggs, and I was like, you weren't supposed to do that. That's illegal, right? You feel like you're gonna get, and really the cops are probably not going to do anything, but they get that fear instilled in you, that sense of I'm being watched, I'm being surveillanced, it's not comfortable. And I'm a law-abiding, tax-paying citizen. I feel like at this point, especially being unvaxxed in my own country, I am a pariah. I am treated worse than sex offenders. I don't have the rights of people that have been in prison. It's really awful. You feel like you've done something so terribly wrong by having the wrong opinions.
What are some of the restrictions there? For
COVID and everything? Well, basically now it's just travel. So domestic travel, train. If you live in Ontario, there's lots of places that still have it. There's certain universities that are upholding it. I think a court case just went through that upheld the university's right, I think it was in Ontario, to continue to require vaccine mandates for everyone. They won't even accept religious exemptions. They denied 6 people or something. So that's a common one. My husband is having a terrible time finding work. He left his job because of the mandates with government, provincial government last year. And now he can't find work because a bunch of industries that he's trained in, they don't care, but they're federally regulated. So mines and the oil field, there's certain places where they have federal regulations, so they have to uphold this mandate. So it's affecting a lot of work. It's affecting all of that kind of stuff. And then there's still places that they are having issues visiting family in hospitals. My province dropped everything. Once our premier said, hey, we're done. We were the first ones in Canada to drop vaccine and mask. And the truckers, exactly. The truckers were huge.
Scott Moe, good on Scott Moe that he saw.
He was one of the best.
He saw the truckers and he was like, okay, we're done, essentially. Or
Yeah,
no?
he supported them openly, which was really nice, and said that it was nonsensical and it didn't prevent transmission and this was silly. And so we're better than most, but even here we're still feeling that crunch. So if you go to Ontario, Quebec, it's nuts.
Well, I heard that you have a compilation, Christian, of some of Trudeau's best moments.
Well, it's actually my friend Viva Faride who posted this morning, but it's kind of an old clip, but yeah, it's a compilation.
I'd like to see it because I queued up
Me too.
something, but this is probably better.
The small fringe minority, people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing, do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country.
They are putting at risk their own kids, and they're putting at risk our kids as well. Those people are putting us all at risk. Those people are putting us all at risk.
The behavior on display this weekend does not represent you.
Oui, on va s'en sortir de cette pandémie par la vaccination. Puis on en connaît tous des gens qui sont en train d'hésiter un petit peu. On va continuer d'essayer de les convaincre. Mais il y a aussi des gens qui sont farouchement opposés à la vaccination.
Qui sont extrémistes.
Qui croient pas dans la science,
they are
qui sont
extremists.
souvent
They don't
souvent
believe in
racistes
science.
aussi. C'est
They're often misogynist and
un
racist.
petit groupe, mais qui prend de la place. Et là, il faut faire un choix en tant que leader, en tant que pays.
Do we tolerate these people?
Est-ce qu'on dit, ben, voyons,
or do we say,
des gens, presque
hey,
80% des Québécois ont
most
fait ce
of the
qu'il fallait
people,
faire,
80%
se sont
are
fait
vaccinated.
vacciner, on veut revenir
We want to come back to
choses
things
qu'on
we
aime
like
faire.
doing.
C'est pas ces gens-là qui vont nous bloquer.
I can't watch him.
He's horrible.
Okay, well, I actually, Pirate, can you go ahead and cue up the clip I sent you of him from yesterday? This is just a silly one, so I thought we could just cleanse the palate. It's still a Trudeau clip, but I think it might start somewhere in the. Oh no! This is only 23 seconds. Yeah, hit play.
And what do you and your family do to cut back on plastics?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of a plastic. Away from plastic towards paper. Like drink box water bottles sort of things.
And what do you
Yeah. He's either psychopathic or lame. I mean, those are the two versions of Trudeau you can get.
What was happening there? That was like a Biden. He pulled a Biden.
Yeah. It was bad. Yeah, that's not his finest moment.
I haven't seen that.
It's like one of those things where his brain is somewhere else probably, and he's not even thinking about what he's saying and just stumbling over. I don't know. That cracked me up. I think he is a mentally unwell person. That's just what I think, because I don't think you can. I think some people can live in, very large amounts of self-delusion and come out of it at some point. I don't think he's in self-delusion. I think he's one of those people who's very conscious that he's turning things upside down. Mm-hmm. That's just my gut on him. I don't think he's a good man.
Oh no, for sure.
No, that's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, he preaches a lot of tolerance. Canadians are all about supporting each other.
Yes,
and tolerance,
except these
and
people.
diversity. That's right. Except these horrible people. Yeah. Except for those scum over there, right? He's a nightmare. He's a nightmare. And the more woke he sounds, the worse he gets. I saw a comment in the chat too from someone watching about the Métis not trusting him, and I don't think you guys use that term. So Métis are people that are of Aboriginal ancestry, as well as they've had a parent who is also European, often French or British. Very common in my region. Métis and Aboriginal people were treated pretty awfully by the government very well throughout the years. Still now, they're terrible. They're treated terribly, but they're used as pawns, much like Black people are used in the States constantly as a pawn from the left. They claim that they have the market on compassion for that group of people, but they don't have a say, and anybody who speaks out of whatever their narrative should be is considered, a traitor to their own race, and all of the horrible terms come out. So we're having all that same stuff up here, and the stuff that's happening with the pandemic, it really is disproportionately affecting minorities, and it is disproportionately affecting Aboriginal people, who are understandably so a little bit leery to just do whatever the government tells them when it comes to something like the bodily autonomy discussion. So it's interesting to see, like, it really is the opposite of what they claim is what's happening. So if you want to know what Canada's like, hear what Trudeau is saying, and then the opposite is kind of what's actually going on.
Just like a psychopath. Flip it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit. We've got 2 super chats. Thank you guys. Kent, do you know him? He says, "So happy
yes, hi Kent. I know him
again."
through Twitter and through, I think, was it Gracie? Maybe I first met Kent. Right on. How's it going, Kent?
Hi, Kent. He says,
and Alberta does rule. I love Saskatchewan, but Alberta is my sister province. It's also great, full of, quote, rednecks. I don't know if I can say that. I got myself suspended on Twitter once calling myself a redneck as a joke. So.
What?
Oh, wow.
The Twitter chaos knows no bounds.
Yeah, they will use sarcasm against you on Twitter. That's one thing they'll do. Twee Girl. Thank you, Twee Girl. She gives us $5 Canadian. What are those worth today? Okay. She says, I can still hear Trudeau's lisp. It is horrifying.
I think you can get 1 loaf of bread and some milk for that. So, yeah.
A fraction of a tank of gas.
Right.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I wanted you guys to fill me in on Canada, but I also, some weeks there's not a lot that's on my mind. This week, there happened to be some things that I saw yesterday that just kind of have been weighing on me. I want to talk about, let's talk about the funny one first instead of saving it for the end. Myth Informed, they're the ones who put on the Better Discourse Conference. Yeah. They do great research. They're always digging up interesting things online, like different DEI trainings and stuff. They dug up this company that produces apparently training videos for DEI workshops. Now, I didn't believe this at first. I thought this must be parody. This must be someone mocking a DEI video because it's so, I don't know if you've
so
seen
bad.
You saw it,
I thought it was parody too. I thought so too.
I'm still hopeful that someone's going to be like coming out from behind the curtain and say, gotcha.
Massive troll. Yeah.
Massive troll. Let's just pirate. Let's cue up the first one of those. It's just so over this. This is what leftists think America is like in 2022.
These monkeys are back at it again. I'll teach them a lesson they won't forget.
Who does this?
Oh, yeah.
Bringing out the whip. What?
It's happening all the time.
Hey! What did I tell you criminals about coming back to my neighborhood?
Oh, no, Roy, let's just get out of here. No, Vince. I won't let her ruin our fun. Listen, lady, we aren't breaking any laws by having fun here at the park. I won't let you intimidate us anymore.
Are you talking back to me, boy? I guess you forgot who used to own your kind, and I'm about to remind you of that right now.
Oh. Unbelievable. Bitch, that hurts.
Don't you touch him or I will knock your teeth out.
Roy, hang on. I'll get some help.
Oh, look. You disabled, crippled piece of trash. No one's coming for you. You're not worth it. You and your kind, you are worthless. Now, it's been, 180 years since slavery was abolished?
Dion.
And I'm going to give you a lash for every year that God-given right was taken away from me.
I don't care. You can try and hurt me, but you won't break my spirit. I'm not to be afraid of evil
the
people
acting
like
is
you.
just...
And where's your mama now, huh? It's just you and me. So let's have a little fun.
His mama is right here. Nobody messes with my boy like that, lady. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Vince, call the cops and tell them that there's a lunatic at the park going around picking people.
Just another day in America, right?
Okay, I have some updates on this. So people in the chat, look, a lot of people are saying this must be satire. It has to be parody. That's what I thought. It's not.
Me too.
So
okay, it's
I don't know
not.
if you've seen Douglas Murray's latest book, The War in the West.
No, I haven't seen the
So there was a Dominican friar going on campus, and people thought that was a KKK member. So they put the campus on lockdown until they found him, because they thought there was an open KKK member going on campus with a whip trying to find minorities to whip.
What?
And turns out it was just a friar with a kind of apparel that kind of looked like a whip. So, I mean...
It's not... It's I don't know. It belies believe, like we don't. The reason we think it's parody is because you look at this and you're like, how could anybody think that this is representative of what America's like, or what white people are like?
I think I know
people. But some
people who would watch this and think this is
real.
Good, real. I don't know.
Okay, there's two more. There's one. I don't know if we should watch them or not. I'll just tell you the premise of each one. There's one where a white cop pulls over a black guy and tells him to get out of this neighborhood. Don't you come back here again. And then he gets called in. Then the next day he gets called into the office, and it turns out that the black guy he pulled over is also a cop, and he gets his comeuppance. And then there's a third one they found. Same company put it out, and it's two white cops. They look like more like small town sheriffs.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one.
They get called in
loitering.
They arrest the black guy for loitering, and they find some random rope in a track. They're like, "Go get that rope!
Go get that!"
And
rope.
they wrap him up in rope, and it just.
It's funny because they cuff him first, then they throw him on the ground. Like you don't need to throw him on the ground if he's already cuffed. So they cuff him, they throw him on the ground, then they pull him back up. They get the rope and they tie him up, and it's like everything is wrong with that clip. Everything.
Actually, Pirate, pull that one up. Don't pull the cop. Don't pull up the cop pulling over the guy, but pull up the silly one with the rope.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. That's the one. We'll watch that. Then I'm going to tell you a little bit about this company.
You ready to make your first arrest for the Mango Park Police Department?
How do you know we're going to arrest him? We haven't even talked to him yet.
Oh, come on, Mark. You heard the radio call. The suspect's black. Loitering. What more do you need to know?
I don't know. Maybe he's innocent.
Well, whatever. All right, Mark. Hello, young man.
They pay these actors $75 a day.
We got a complaint about someone fitting your description loitering around here.
Oh, really? No complaints around here. I'm just waiting on my friend.
Do you have any ID on you?
Yeah, sure.
So tell me, Mr. James Washington, what are you doing here?
Well, officer, me and my friend are going to a game, and I'm just waiting for him to pick me up.
Can you pause it for a second, Pirate? A lot of people on Twitter, after Myth Informed dug these up, they were making the obvious joke that this is like porn acting, like I'm waiting for the plumber to arrive. It's so bad. Yeah. It's just so bad. It has that feeling, like, right? Like you're kind of waiting for something naughty. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
Day that you'll be seeing a game.
Wait, what do you mean?
You heard what I said.
Officer, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just waiting for my friend.
See that sign over there? Can you read it?
Loitering? Really, officer?
Mark, you got your handcuffs out?
Yes, sir.
What?
Please handcuff this man.
Wait.
What?
What are you doing?
Stay still. Get down on one knee. Get down. Get down.
Also the music.
Down. All the way down. All the way down.
Don't make this any harder on yourself, boy.
Get up.
Go get that rope over there.
What? Yeah. Look at the rope is just like the woman had the whip.
So help me tie him up.
With the rope?
Yes, with this rope. I don't want to take any chances with this guy.
But we have him in handcuffs already.
So what? He might try to resist again. Come on, just do what I say.
That music is epic.
Yeah. It's not parody.
Oh my God. What are you doing?
What is happening?
By the way, if you go to the channel that makes these, they have like 41 million views.
We're heading back to the station.
Yeah.
Come on.
I was expecting them to get their horses. Like, let's get our horses.
It's so stupid. This is MAGA country.
Yeah.
Okay, you can stop. You can stop there, pirate.
Mhm.
It just gets more silly. Yeah. So this is like a whole kind of it's like a new kind of blaxploitation. I think somebody said that in the chat. Except the old the blaxploitation films of the 70s, like the real blaxploitation, those were badass films like Coffee and Foxy Brown, and it was like Black people who were taking control and maybe breaking the law, a little like Dukes of the Hazzard, but in the Black community, and they were taking things into their own hands and getting things done. This is a different kind of blaxploitation. This is like for white people, I think, to watch this and be like, oh, it's like victim porn. Black people are, oh, they're such victims. They need my help as a special white person.
They need my help. Exactly. That's exactly. How can I be a hero in this situation?
Yes. Yes, it's terrible. So they have the studio that produced these. This is what Mythinform says. It says Generation Hope markets these, quote, inspiring videos to change makers like the diversity, equity, and inclusion departments. Their studio has some gems currently in production. These are their actor notices. They're currently looking for actors for more of these DEI films. And they're
if anyone's interested,
anyone in the chat. They're looking for just real quick. They're looking for a lead female, 20 to 29, ethnicity Middle Eastern, a practicing Muslim woman that mostly keeps to herself and minds her own business. She is kind, genuinely empathetic, and charming. Okay. And then we're looking also for a lead, white or European descent male who's 30 to 46, a blatantly racist psychopathic stalker. He uses every opportunity he can to let the world know who he is, but also takes great lengths to try and hide some darker parts of himself. They have a whole bunch of these casting notices up.
That's great. But like James Lindsay talks a lot about ESG these days, and I'm glad he does, because this is such a scam. Basically, ESG is how your company gets rated as far as social responsibility and environmental responsibility and all of this. And this informs how investment funds will invest in you'll be included in investment fund, basically, portfolios. So if you have a company, you just want the investment, you don't care. So you want a good ESG. So to have a good ESG, you have to have anti-bias training and anti-racism training. So you're just going to buy these videos, you're going to show them to your employees, and then you're done. You don't care that the videos are crap or that they're good. Your job is to get your ESG high enough that you're included in the funds. So if you need to set up anti-racism training, you just pick these off the shelf and you're done. And these people make money with this.
It's so bad.
It is very, very bad.
I saw one of these on the YouTube page where it was posted. They had questions in the description area of the video. So, and as if, again, this is like, as if they don't realize they're making crap full of just like crappy assumptions about what America's like. They put in there, like, how would you react to the basketball one with the lady with the whip? How would you react if you saw someone doing this? But as if people are like, what? Like, I mean, really? Like, of course you would be like, there's a crazy freaking woman with a whip. Like,
she's a serial killer. It's a Criminal Minds episode, apparently. Yeah.
Right? Right? I mean, I would take it more seriously. Look, prejudice exists. Racial prejudice
of course
exists.
It does, yeah.
We all, so does gender-based prejudice. I agree. It exists. But you could pick a realistic scenario and give a person a real question. Yeah. This is just like, that's why it looks like parody, because it's over the top.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't have much else to add. I just wanted to see you guys laugh at it.
That was just good for a laugh.
That's good for a laugh, yeah.
I appreciate that. Although probably in the long run, these sorts of things are actually horribly dividing us as nations and people. But it's like, you might as well laugh because it's happening anyway. So you have to laugh where you can, or you go crazy.
They have some of them have 41 million views. We should start making these kind of videos.
Yeah. Oh.
Just terrible acting.
Yeah.
Or not me, but someone should make a porn that starts with this kind of DEI stuff. It's just like so
the whip.
Terrible.
Yeah, the whip. Yeah, everyone carries a whip. Well, every white lady carries a whip when she walks in the park, just in case. You never know.
I know I have one in my purse.
Oh my goodness. Okay, that was silly.
Yes.
What else is on your mind? I have a few more things, but what are you guys thinking about lately?
Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah.
You're the one in true clown world. So.
Yeah, I'm in true. Yeah, I'm really curious to see. I'm expecting tomorrow, like, still 80% mask wearing everywhere. That's sort of my, even though the mandates lift, my mind's on that right now. Like, what's it going to look like?
When they lift the mandate.
When they lift the mandate, because like I've been to the southern U.S. and you still see, even in Florida, you're going to be walking in the park and you're going to see someone with a mask by themselves taking a walk in the middle of the park. You're like, that person's broken. They're broken forever. We're not saving that person. She's going to be wearing a mask. He's going to be wearing a mask until the end of time.
Can I tell you, so we're renovating this new old house and had problems with the internet. And we had the internet guy come over yesterday. Now, I know this is not company policy. Sometimes they have very restrictive company policies.
Yeah.
It's not company policy because I had a different technician from the same company a week or two ago, and he was great and like a normal human. But the guy that came yesterday had a mask, goggles, plastic gloves, and those physician booties over his feet. And
wow.
It was just awkward. It was
to
so
fix
awkward.
The internet.
Plus, he told me I had to lock my dog in another room, which the other guy had not done. And I was just thinking, makes sense. He's a person clearly with like control issues and anxiety about people and humans. And it was fine. He came to do a job. He did the job. But I just couldn't help but thinking about him afterwards. Just like, what is that like?
Especially what is that like? Exactly. That's what I wonder.
Where nobody's wearing them anymore. And you're wearing gloves, booties. You're setting yourself apart from everyone.
Yeah, maybe he actually had COVID. He just didn't want to give it.
No.
That's a very generous potential, given the benefit of the doubt.
It's very Canadian generosity.
I told you this would be a nice, polite conversation. You're just so charming. How can I say this diplomatically?
Yeah.
In a Trudeau voice.
Yeah. I just thought it was sad. I think you're going to see a lot of that if I go into Austin, I see more people who are still wearing them, even after we got rid of our mandate a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the businesses, you'll probably have this there too, Christian. A lot of the businesses in Austin are woke, and they need to virtue signal online and let you know they're woke. And so after Governor Abbott did away with the mandate, a lot of the ones that I follow, like even some of my favorite thrift stores and stuff down in Austin, they all did the virtue signaling posts, like, we believe in science, so we're going to continue to require the mask. It's like, okay.
The script,
Yeah.
I know this is way off topic, but I seem to recall there was some talk in the green room about some Madonna images that might be fun to look at. Unless you don't want to get into that. But I seem to recall there being some discussion about this, and I was kind of looking forward to it.
We don't want to watch the videos because they're really graphic.
It's disturbing, actually.
Let's.
But I liked I do like your tweet about it though, Carrie. I liked your you were very honest about your thoughts on Madonna, and I appreciated that. Appreciated that.
Pirate, pull up that news article, but let's be careful not to show the video. So
yeah, I was gonna say there's probably like YouTube community guideline things, right?
Yeah, Madonna reveals fully nude NFTs and a shocking 3D model of her vagina. Okay, so if you go and look at this, there's some very not safe for work images here. You can see one there, but if we're not going to play the video. If you turn the video on, you're going to see close-ups of her lady parts and all kinds of woodland creatures coming out, and like a big broccoli stalk. It looks like broccoli, but it's a big green tree growing. And then
there it is.
Yeah, there's the broccoli.
That's the image I was thinking of.
Yeah. And more stuff like this. And yeah, you could take that down now. So it looks like she's in a laboratory, and there's this mechanical arm, and there's green tree stuff growing out. So I just said, this is going to make things a bit more serious, but I'll say this. It just occurred to me, this isn't the only thing I've seen from her recently that's disgusting. If you go to her Instagram, it's just a ton of highly filtered. So first of all, she's gotten so much plastic surgery. She's 63, I think.
Yeah.
She's gotten so much plastic surgery, it's hard to recognize her, but then she uses all these crazy filters, like the ones that make you look like an anime character with big eyes. And she takes all these pictures. Like she took one where she was in her knickers and she was like under the bed, like all these trying to be really sexy, graphically over the top, revealing pictures. And I think she got into a back and forth with, was it LL Cool J? Who was it that called her out and said nobody wanted to see her 63-year-old?
I don't know.
Parts.
No idea.
Anyway,
I'm not
she
as
got
up to
into-
speed on Madonna as I should be, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me either, apparently.
Someone in the chat, tell me who that was. There was some rapper who called her out, and then they had a back and forth, and she accused him of misogyny and ageism because he doesn't want to see a 63-year-old in her knickers, you know, posing on the bed. And so, oh, it was 50 Cent. It was 50 Cent.
Oh, okay. 50 Cent. Got it. Fitty. Yeah, I thank you, Sonora Buddies.
Yeah.
It's been a while since he called her out, but I remember I read the post back then, and he was right on the money. And she flipped out, of course, because she's a victim of misogyny.
Oh yeah.
The only reason Fitty wouldn't want to see me sprawled out on the bed like that must be ageism, and I'm such a victim. And
ageism, as if age is just arbitrary. No, it's not. It moves in one direction, and it's not necessarily a fun one, but you have to accept it.
Whoa.
Lord.
Okay, this is thank you, Pirate, for finding this. This is a typical post on her Instagram. It's freaking weird.
That is weird.
And then she has a ton of, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's interesting. It's such I don't understand. I always try to wonder why people do something. What is your impetus? What are you thinking behind it? What's the psychology? And I don't understand the direction. I'm not into Hollywood stuff, but there's something going on, and there's a vapidness and an obsession with, it's like desperately clinging to the flesh while just ignoring the soul. That's what I get the sense of.
Yes.
Ignoring reality, really.
That too.
Yeah, she's doing
because
both.
that looks like something that came out of a real doll factory.
That's like those Bratz dolls. Isn't they called Bratz dolls? Is that what
yeah,
that's what that looks like?
Yeah, Sonora, they fear reality. They do. They fear reality. It's an inversion of reality. So she, I think, is she's like living proof, in my opinion. She's living proof that if you worship, I think there's two different things to worship, two choices. You can worship God or you can worship the world. Worshiping the world, it looks all different kinds of ways. It could be worshiping yourself, worshiping drugs, worshiping money, fame, the government, all kinds of things, another person, but it's the world. All that's some form of the world. And I think she's a great example of someone who's had all the world has to offer. Most of us will never be in her position of that much success and power and opportunity. And so she's had everything you could have that the world has to give you. And what has it done to her? It's turned her into this monster. It's like the world leaves you empty. At the end of the day, what is she? She's obsessed with bodily functions. She's obsessed with herself as God. Like this whole art thing with her vagina is all about how she's God and giving birth to the world. And that's why we have to see these close-ups of her lady bits. And it's a sort of like, she's a toddler. Like toddlers are obsessed with their own bodies and their filth. And it just leaves you wanting. And I look at her and I think, there, but for the grace of God go I. She's a warning sign. That's what she is. And she's a big enough celebrity. I can talk about her and use her as an example to illustrate what I'm thinking about without it hurting her. She's never going to hear what I said about, so I can point to her and say, look, maybe that's what she's here for. This example of like, this is the path that the world will take you on if you worship things of the world to nothing. This really pathetic place, cringe level pathetic, where you're a 63-year-old woman trying to just continue looking younger and younger and trying to cultivate this never-ending pursuit of sex appeal that people must find you sexy and there's nothing there. You're so empty. Her Instagram is just a bunch of pictures of her with her boyfriend, I think he's in his 20s, and they all looks like pictures that you would take in your 20s. Like, she hasn't aged gracefully into an attractive lady. She's become this macabre, just thirsty. I think here's what it is. All the world has to give you, it's not fulfilling. She is, people use that phrase thirsty for women who are looking for attention. She is the most unquenchably thirsty person I've seen in the public sphere. And she's never going to get enough attention to fill her up. And my pastor read an interview with her a year or so ago. I couldn't find it. I'm going to try and find it later. But in it was very vulnerable and revealing. She was saying, basically, I'm going to paraphrase, but she was like, every success I've gotten only makes me feel like somebody for a little while. And then there's this gaping hole again, and I have to do more and more and more because I never feel like somebody. It always leaves me empty. All of these accomplishments. She's a very accomplished person, and all of it, she's aware that all of it leaves her empty. Yeah. And I just look at her and I'm like, okay, now here's the part people may not follow me on. This is why I believe Kanye West's conversion is real. When Kanye West came out and did his Jesus is King, Jesus is Lord album, whatever it's called, I couldn't stop listening to that. And it was because I felt, I don't care what people think about him. I felt sincerity in his religious conversion and his experience with God, because he's another person who's had all the world has to offer, found it wanting, and instead of continuing to descend into that pit of nothing, went looking for something meaningful.
Well, I got good news for you as it comes to Madonna. Pirate, can you just put the link I just sent up?
What is this?
What? What am I looking at?
Oh, wait,
there
Christian,
you go.
Christian, why don't you read this?
Madonna has some important matters to discuss with Pope Francis. I'm a good Catholic, I swear. This is like 10 days old.
Scroll down.
I haven't read the rest.
Can you make it just a little bit bigger?
I just saw the title. I remembered hearing about her reaching out to the Pope to sort of.
Madonna gets that she hasn't always done things the way the church might prefer, but in a tweet at Pope Francis is on Twitter?
Yeah. I didn't know that.
But in a tweet at Pope Francis on Wednesday, May 4th, the singer said that she would like a second chance to make a first impression while asking for a private meeting with the pontiff to discuss some pressing issues. Here's her tweet. Hello, Pontifex Francis. I'm a good Catholic, I swear. I mean, I don't swear, Madonna tweeted. It's been a few decades since my last confession. Would it be possible to meet up one day to discuss some important matters? Okay. I've been excommunicated 3 times. It doesn't seem fair, she added.
I'm not Catholic, but okay.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
I mean, she's
I'm not Catholic either, so I don't know what that. Like, why do you get excommunicated?
Yeah, I don't know all the logistics around the, requirements for or against excommunication, but that's interesting. I'd love to look into that more. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, it's just
Keep reading.
weird. So she's asking him on Twitter publicly for a private meeting so she can discuss important issues. What, like Roe v.
Of the
Wade?
soul over Twitter?
Or,
I'd like to discuss the eternity of my soul. Hey, Twitter. Hey, you. Hey, pay attention to me. That's weird. But like you said, it is an example. Again, though, it's like there's a reaching. Like you said, Carrie, there's an emptiness. There's something. And again, like you said, I don't know who in the audience is of the Christian faith or has any faith at all. But there's that God-sized hole in your heart that you're always seeking to fill, and everything else just will not cut it. And it is an image that is kind of haunting, because that is what we can all turn into if we create idols here on earth and choose to be spiritually infantile, essentially. And it's not a good, happy, fulfilling life. The world might offer all these quote joys and shiny things, but it's not the same as the peace of Christ. It just isn't.
I agree with you. I mean, I had that God-sized hole in my life, so that's why I say there for the grace of God go I. I mean, it's pity looking at her. It's like this lady. Somebody has it right in the chat. I just saw that scroll by. Jules says, go to your local priest. Yeah, well, see, the thing is, a narcissist won't go to their local priest
No,
quietly.
they're going to the Pope.
They're going to
On
Twitter.
publicly go to the Pope. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, I'm Madonna. I will speak to the top one.
While I'm naked because I'm Madonna.
Right. Straight to the top. Right. Right. To humble yourself and go to a local priest and humble yourself below that priest. And I can't see her doing that anyway.
Nope.
Well, do you have further thoughts? I mean, I know that's just a cultural thing, but I look at her and I was like, wow, okay. I just want to say, like, look, can people see that path is wrong? Like,
oh, absolutely. I don't know what percentage look at her, follow her genuinely and think it's good versus people who just watch the train wreck. I'd be curious to know, like, what, and it's impossible to find out, but I mean, how many people think, yeah, she's just genuinely good Catholic. She's reaching out to the Pope. She wants to be a good person. She's balanced. She's got it.
She's also not asking him for some kind of, in those public tweets, it wasn't about, I want to be a good person. Like, it wasn't sort of, I want to discuss my soul. It was, I have some important issues of the day to talk about with you, you know?
Well,
like,
which, I mean, she's upset that she's been excommunicated 3 times.
Yeah.
So,
like, I want to have a say in this.
In a way, it is her reaching to save her soul in the worst possible way.
But it's very telling of our culture, and like you said, Carrie, it is, even though it's kind of a different topic than everything else we covered in the show, it's very indicative, especially I see in Canada, of just that secular, postmodern debauchery that we kind of are honestly really getting into. It's a nightmare. What I see, nothing that is sacred is considered sacred. That's all considered to be garbage. But all these vapid things are now considered sacred. We have made golden calves out of everything. And what happens in the Bible just keeps happening. It's funny because for so long I left my faith thinking that it wasn't rational. I went to this spirituality, new age, whatever, find your truth and blah, blah, blah. But as I come back to it, the rational elements of the Bible are what keep me coming back again and again. If you read the book of Judges, that's exactly the same as our culture now, except in a different time period with different technology. Humans don't really change that much. Sin nature doesn't change that much. And when you look at the Bible, it becomes a lot. I know people that are atheists that have become Christian in the last 2 years or 3 years, just because they don't know how else to explain the world.
Yeah.
So
wait, so what do you mean
this
about
is
the
very
book of Judges? Because
the book. It's worth reading. I'd never paid attention, and we did a whole series on it at our church a few years ago, pre-pandemic, when everything was normal and we could gather normally and all that. That's back to normal, by the way, at least in my province. But we did a sort of a deep dive into it, and there's a lot of stuff about idol worship, Baal worship. There's a lot of sort of new age spirituality, people closing their ears and doing evil things and not listening. It's a bit hard to unpack in a short time, but it's worth a read if you can get some good theological resources and like dive into that book. It's not super, super long, but there's a lot in there. And it's the same with the books preceding and following it. The amount of, patterns you see that are just human nature. I just couldn't believe it. I felt like I was reading just what's going on in Canada right now, but reading it in Judges. So yeah, idol worship, just sinful, gross desires, lusts of the flesh, and no God. Like the people had turned from God, and God was trying to, instill a godly king. And it's really interesting to listen into, I guess, the word of God and how he warns us again and again that this is not new. This is not new.
Yeah,
right?
It's like, gosh, learning the same lesson over and over and over again. People can relate to that. I can relate to that on an individual level. I've had to learn the same lesson over and over again. And so that makes sense to me, that a culture, that people en masse, like historically, we just keep making the same freaking mistakes over and over.
And exactly, if I may, just Annie Pinkava, I think, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. My pastor did a great series on Judges, starting with everyone doing what is right in their own eyes and ending with the people not even wanting to be delivered from their enemies. And that's bingo. That's a perfect way of saying it. Yeah.
Hi, Anne. Okay, I have one more link I wanted to show you guys. Speaking of narcissism, this is just something that came across my feed yesterday. Make that just a little larger, Pirate.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a man, a trans woman who's living as a woman. It's a biological man. And it's a post that he did on Twitter where he says, it's a selfie where he's smiling at the camera. 37 weeks into my simulated pregnancy, still being a busy worker bee when I'm not taking selfies. About 3 more weeks to go. Hashtag trans sim pregnancy. What is this?
It is the end of Western civilization.
I believe this is one of the final steps.
Yeah, this is a final form of our destructor.
What? I just. Oh.
And then is there going to be like a parental leave? Like the pregnancy is simulated, but the parental leave is real.
Well, birthing persons, you can't discriminate, of course. That's hateful. So yeah, it's kind of scary. I've seen a lot of stuff like this lately, and I'm supposed to take it seriously, and I can't. I actually watched, I don't know if you guys have seen it. It went around a little bit on Twitter. It's a 2011 clip from SNL when they were still kind of funny, maybe, or in the end years of when they were kind of still funny. And they did a whole skit on taking some super estrogen patch that turns you into a woman real fast. It's hilarious, but I can't. It's probably been deleted off of most mainstream things. I should share it in the chat, but it's a classic. I can't believe 10 years ago. That's all it was 10 years, and I just feel like we've done a complete 180 on reality. It's just we are in a clown world. I think we've said that a few times. It's a clown world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is to the point of forcing. I mean, I assume that this person forces everyone at work to play along.
Oh, you don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
If you're at work, if that's your coworker, then you better walk straight, or you'll be in trouble. You'll be the one in trouble.
Yeah, I just I don't know. I think it's a celebration of mental illness, and it's a validation of we're at this place where I got to interview Jake Wistershin. I always say his name wrong. I want to say Whiskerchin. That's how it's spelled. Whiskerchin. Anyway, that was a great interview, and he's a psychologist, and one of the things he was talking about is that now they're being told, therapists and stuff, they're being told to do validation in the therapy room for everything. So not just trans ideology, not just to validate and say, well, yes, you must be. That there could be nothing else that I might think is going on with you. It must be that you're trans. Not just with that, but they're being told now as therapists to validate diagnoses that the client brings in, even if it contradicts with their professional opinion. So if a person comes in and after working with them for a while, you're like, I think that you have some traits of this personality disorder. I think you have and if the client is like, well, the patient's like, no, I don't want that diagnosis. I think I just have depression. That then you're supposed to validate and treat them as if they have depression.
Wow, that sounds like great medicine. Good idea. What could possibly go wrong?
That sounds like a hardcore science right there.
That's some science in if I ever heard it.
Yeah. Like I just we're heading in a really, I think somebody said that Madonna thing, that tweet about, they said Madonna is a great analog for society because what's happening to her, to this one individual, that's where society is going. We're just on this downward spiral of the wrong path, worshiping the wrong things. And,
the logical conclusion is frightening, isn't it? Where does this all lead when you actually think about it? It's not some utopian paradise where we all love each other for our unique selves. I know that we'd like to believe, but it's pretty scary when you think about where this all leads. It's not anywhere good. And again, patterns in history, this whole utopian, everyone's going to be okay lie it's been done. We've done this before. This is not new. And then the whole it's for your safety, let the state take over thing. That's also not new. None of this is new, right?
Yeah.
But it's scary when you realize it's happened again, and you look at what happened when it happened, and it's not. It does not have it on the hopeful note. Let's say.
How do you stay hopeful, Christian? What are you joyful?
That's a good way to.
How do you say?
Lord.
Yeah. Because you're very joyful online.
Yeah, I know. I play it very well. Right now, I'm looking at I'm trying to buy a van, and try to go for RV or van life.
Yeah.
So I'm having a lot of fun imagining what that would look like, and watching videos and all of that. Now, all of this is a bit futile as long as the borders is not open, but a man can dream.
That's right.
Van life. So one of my housemates, she did van life for a long time in California. I think you met her. Did you meet Tina?
Yeah,
when you were- yeah. And then now what's happening? I bet you're having trouble finding a van.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, because I happen to know that they're very hard to come by, and I have a friend here in the States who he's flown to other states just to be the first one there to get this used van that as soon as it goes up. And there's other people who fly in too and are trying to get that one van.
Since the pandemic, it's insane.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think it's two things. I think people are during the pandemic, they're flying less. And so for vacations, maybe people who used to go abroad and stuff, they wanted, or fly within the country, they wanted to get a van to travel. And so a lot of people were buying them up. I know people who bought them up for that reason. I think that was happening. And then I think at the same time, that was coming on the heels of this whole van life movement that, people like my housemate were getting into. And so the demand for them just became crazy.
And people leaving the cities. I know, there's been a huge exodus from California. So like people in Los Angeles are like, well, screw this big city where I can't do anything. I'll just get a van and go wherever I want.
Yeah.
Problem here is if I can't cross the border, then I'm stuck in the winter in my van. In the Canadian winter, that's not going to happen.
It's not Texas. It is not
that's
Texas.
it. That's it.
That would suck.
Yeah.
I just had to put this on screen because it made me smile.
Yes.
Greg
I remember that. That's from Chris Farley classic.
Can you do
SNL.
the line? Can you do it?
I am the... No, I can't. And I live in a van down by the river.
And then we also have a super chat. Thank you, Ned. Ned Hill, $10. Thank you, sir. He says, hi, Carrie. Ned from Charleston. Oh, I wonder if you're from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm from South Carolina. Loving your content since seeing you with Chrissy, ex-supermodel Paulina Poriskova. I'm afraid I don't know her. Has been making noise about being ignored because she is no longer young and beautiful.
No idea.
I recall seeing something about that. Yeah, there was, I think Gad Sad had a whole Twitter back and forth with that person. I'm almost positive. That's how I would just grab my popcorn and read back and forth, if I recall. I don't involve myself in Twitter debates like that, but I like watching other people that do. It can be entertaining.
Oh, South Carolina, he says. Yeah, same as Carrie. Oh, well, nice to meet you. Charleston's beautiful. That's a cool part of our state. Did you go through there, Christian?
Yeah, I spent a couple of days there.
It's got the cobblestone streets. I mean, that's where you go if you want the really old history in our state. Is Charleston?
Yeah, I went to Fort Sumter. Also, the opening shots of the Civil War were at Fort Sumter. So,
did you go on a ghost tour?
I did not go on a ghost tour.
Fun!
I went to a couple of plantations.
I bet they do ghost tours there. They do a lot in Charleston. And next time you're in Texas, you can just come to my house if you want to see a ghost.
Yeah.
So
sure.
This big old house. Okay, about the model thing, he said, and you saw the squabbling happening, Kelly.
Yeah, there was a whole debate about it because, if I recall, Gad Saad was going on about basically the same thing, that women need to stop being pouty, that they're not the best woman in the room, and he's pretty harsh with her, but they had a back and forth for quite a while, and it was the same thing. It came down to a misogyny accusation and ageism and blah blah blah, and then she questioned his credentials and who are you, and you probably couldn't get the hot chicks when you were young, and blah blah blah, all the ad hom. But it was interesting to watch because at the core of it was the exact same sort of impetus or energy, which is that element of, oh no, I put my whole life in this. My whole life has been everybody looking at me, and now they don't as much because I live in LA. That was the other argument, was people were saying, get out of LA then, because if you think that you're not the most beautiful woman in the room, maybe not in supermodel country, but you're still, like, she's gorgeous. She's I don't know how old she is now. She looks fantastic. I'd be quite happy to look like her at that age, not a problem. But no, it's not enough, because you're in this comparison mode, always comparing. And it's no different than money. You have all the things, the nicest house on the nicest mountain, but what about the guy in the other country that has a nicer house on a nicer mountain?
Yes.
So you have all of the things, or you have the best looks. You're always going to be less than someone. And if you're always striving for that, like you said, you just end up empty and miserable. And now in 20 years, when she can't hold together the look that she can anymore, because things, surgery aside, gravity exists, right? So
Right.
you can only do so much without looking like a plastic person. She's probably going to be just as empty and unhappy and still fighting it out with guys on the internet and wishing that she, I don't like, these people end up lonelier. The most attractive, rich, successful people end up so lonely. And I'm just this kind of like hillbilly up from tiny rural Saskatchewan, and I have more joy in my heart, and I don't have much money, but I'm happier, right? And I think it's because I just haven't placed I have idols, I'm a human, I sin, but to put all of your worth into something that will fade because it's just tangible and very vapid, it's just a bad life to lead. Yeah.
My husband was watching the new, not new, but one of the newer adaptations, historical dramas about Queen Elizabeth. And I wasn't watching it with him. I just came in for part of it. And this is a woman who looks very old. And in the series at that time, I think Elizabeth, she was supposed to be 56 or something. And she's dating this suitor who looks like he's in his late 20s. And I walked in during the scene where she's asking him, do you think I look old? Am I too old for you? And he's, of course, kissing her ass. I'm like, no, I love you. I think about you all the time. Tell me what you're going to give me again. And she's like, I'll give you all these riches. And, and she's telling him and a seat on the council. And then they start kissing. And I was thinking, like, how many people settle for this in life, this sort of transactional relationship? And I think only a personality disorder person could settle for that, because a normal person would be like, no, I am too old for this dude. I'm 56. He's 20 something. He clearly just wants me for my wealth and because I'm the queen and because of what I can give him. And I don't want to be used. I want something real. Why would you settle for that? Why? But she's willing to settle for that. And it just, I guess it's nothing. That's nothing. And I think a lot of people, the more fame and money and wealth they accumulate, like you're saying, Kelly, they get to that place where they just settle for these transactional relationships, probably because a lot of the people they're meeting do want things from them. And they just start to think that's all there is. Maybe, I don't know, but it's such a fake, false world. I think the ones who try to stay grounded in reality, like Dave Chappelle, I think does a good job of that, of trying to stay grounded. And when they do that, then the media and the entertainment industry and the outside world mocks them and says they're crazy, right? Like, he walked away from millions of dollars and bought a farm in the Midwest, and it's like, because he's sane.
Like Rick Moranis. Remember Rick Moranis from Ghostbusters and on? Like, he retired super early. Like, his wife died and he was like, I need to raise my children. I have enough money for them. I'm quitting Hollywood forever. And he was super successful, and he just walked away. And everyone keeps asking, like, why don't you come back? Why don't you play in the latest Ghostbuster? We're going to bring you back. And he's like, no,
he's just happy living his life. When I saw that scene from Elizabeth, actually, this is to bring it back. I just connected this in my mind. That's what I thought of, was this Madonna thing. Because she's like that. She's 63. Her boyfriend's in his 20s. And what? Are you content with that, Madonna? Like, something so false? And I don't know. I'm rambling.
But people are moving away from the essential. The God-shaped hole is real, and lots of things are being sucked in.
I would say too, there's a lot of looks of gold, but it's not gold. It's like a false gold painted over some kind of rusty, crappy metal underneath.
Yeah, false gold. Do you think how much of it is, since you saw that back and forth, Kelly, with that model? Do you think it all comes down to this whole, for the women who get obsessed with the youth and the sex appeal? Is it that fear of death?
It's a good question. I think there's a lot of people that can't come to terms with death. My mom works in the funeral industry, so I've had to, since I was 16, deal with morbid jokes and face all of the realities of what comes with that. So I'm pretty used to it, but a lot of people, they can't. And if you don't have a faith, then there is that big question. I mean, that is kind of what separates Christianity. The core of it, you have to believe that Christ died and rose again. If you don't believe that, then there's kind of no point. It doesn't differentiate our faith. So part of it is this afterlife concept, and people don't know what's happening. It's the one big question none of us have the answers to. Science doesn't have the answer. We can only guess. We get testimonies. That's all we have. And so I think there's an element of that, but I think there's just also an element of convincing yourself what's important. I mean, even just me in the new age and the amount that you can lie to yourself is astounding. It's astounding how much a person can, over the time, you don't even know you're doing it. You'll do what you need to do to kind of adapt. Human beings adapt. So if you're in that environment, that's all you see, and that's all that's important, you just slowly get sucked into it by osmosis. It's just, you know, it's an automatic thing. That's what it was for me. It was more of an osmosis when it came to being an SJW. I just sort of, that's how I thought. I saw other people doing it. I was around it. I surrounded myself with that. And so I don't know if it's just that's such a transactional lifestyle, Hollywood, modeling, all of that. It's so vapid. Like you said, there's always someone, you don't know who genuinely wants to be with you. You don't know who's really your friend or who wants to take advantage of you. And it's all based on money. And I mean, acting and modeling and all of that, it's all just based on a surface level thing, right? In some cases, there's people literally faking and being something else. So that's their environment. That's what they see. Whereas I'm surrounding myself, I'm not going for a van, but same idea, Christian, you know, I'm surrounding myself with people that want to barter and trade chickens and eggs and sitting outside and listening to the birds and paying attention to my family and my friends and our close contacts, keeping faith, you know, these things that actually fill my soul up, right? The soul is just abandoned by our culture. Nobody cares.
Yeah. The things that mean something.
Yeah. The sacred has become garbage, basically, which is terrible.
I passed the other day in my little town, this couple with their 2 kids just sitting out in the yard with their 2 little kids, and they had a water hose going, like one of those that sprays like this, and the kids were just playing in it, and they were just sitting in the grass, all 4 of them just hanging out. And I was like, I just don't see that enough. It's like, you know, I have memories from my childhood before the phone and before the internet and computer. And when
those were the days, hey?
Like those lazy days, and you know, hanging out with my siblings or hanging out with my grandparents. And I don't know how many parents just allow themselves that time to just unplug and do nothing. I think we become so obsessed with constantly. I was shocked I didn't see the parents on their phones in the grass, you know, with their kids playing. And I was happy. I was like, they're not doing anything. They're just hanging. But what they're doing is so important. Think about those kids, right? Like that 5-year-old or whatever. What a pivotal memory to be in.
They're priceless. You can't replace stuff like that. You cannot replace moments like that. They are what shaped me. You know, I still think back, my father passed away a few years ago, and it's those moments. I don't remember any of the fancy stuff. I wouldn't remember it if we were talking by text, but I sure remember just sitting with him on the deck, or like you said, running through a sprinkler or whatever, growing potatoes in our garden together. You know, that's the stuff where you connect on a one-to-one human level. We need that now. We're so multi-connected, but we're less connected than ever.
Yeah. Distractions are everywhere. Like you get endless movies at your fingertips, video games, all the stuff. And now as I've grown older, I used to be on playing video games all the time. Now I'm biking. I'm just in the forest somewhere, in a trail.
Well, a few months a year, because, you know, it's winter wonderland here. Well, most of the time.
This year it's been the entire year because
he brought his bike.
Put the bike in the trunk before I had it moved.
Nice.
So, yes,
I remember you went biking here in Texas.
Yeah. Nice. Oh yeah, lovely paths. The one that goes over the big dam west of Georgetown. That's part of one of the spot I'm looking at in terms of moving. I'm looking at bike paths when I'm looking at places I want to move at. I'm like, if there's a house and a bike path, and then hopefully a beach or something like that, and then I can just bike most places, I'd be happy.
Well, selfishly, I hope you end up close to me. So
I hope so too.
Whether you're in your van or in a car or in a house. But
who knows? I hope, if the border reopens, I'll certainly.
Yeah. When we're allowed back in your country.
Yeah, and that's up to the U.S. That's one of the weird parts.
I feel like Biden and Trudeau are just, snickering, like, hey, look what we're doing to all of our horrible unvaccinated people.
I think it's
like it's a joke. Yeah,
I think it's neutral. I think the U.S. would just let it go if we let it go.
I'm sure. Yeah,
we're just not gonna let it go.
He's not letting go. This is all he has. He really does hate the unvaccinated, as you heard on his. He was very clear about it, what he thinks. So I think it's. I can't see it changing anytime soon. I've heard rumors they talked about it in the budget in 2021 for up to 3 years. like keeping up the paying for the system that has it in place. So we'll see. But yeah, I'd love to be able to go to the States again. Great place.
Yeah. I had a great time.
Well, I want to give an update for anyone who watches the show regularly, and you guys may not know this, so I'll just tell you about it and give the update. But here in my town, in Georgetown, we just had a kind of one of these cultural flashpoints happen because the local arts and culture board had all these different public art like murals put up. One of the murals, they had the middle schoolers paint. So 10-year-olds to 13-year-olds at Forbes Middle School painted this mural with a lot of different flags in the mural. They took red poppies, which were known as the red poppy capital of Texas or of the US. And thanks, Pirate, he has it. So each of these red poppies, they changed the colors in them and they made them represent specific flags. So there's the pansexual flag, the transgender flag, the non-binary flag, the bisexual flag, the lesbian flag, I think the asexual flag. There's a couple of others. And the question came up in a city council meeting, what's the policy and procedure for the public art? Do we allow political or ideological messaging? And then beyond that, a lot of the community members were asking, and why is a government public middle school having children paint these flags, like a pansexual flag, when you're 10? Why? And were they aware? Were all the kids in the class aware of what they were painting? Was the business owner who owns this building aware? Were the parents of those kids aware? So my pastor, Bradley Helgerson, spoke at a council meeting a little over 2 weeks ago, and 2 members of my church also spoke. And then that week he got notice that we were evicted from our building immediately. And so kicked out of our church because we were renting the Palace Theater, which is run by some of the same arts and culture people. Like it's a nonprofit in the arts. So it's like all the same people. And they said they were evicting us for resource management issues, but it's pretty, it leads you to believe it's not for that, because they wouldn't return his phone calls about it to find out what were the resource management issues. Could we help?
Yeah.
Could we fix it? Like, what is it? Instead, it's like you're evicted effective immediately. They told him 2 days before our Mother's Day Sunday service, and we're going to refund all your rental money for the rest of the month that you've already paid, plus they're a struggling theater, and you would think they would want to keep our rental money. But so last Sunday we had our Mother's Day service outside on the courtyard. It was beautiful. We just did our normal service, but we did it outside, and we had 2 other local churches come and support. So we had this huge crowd right on the courthouse lawn. And I was waiting to hear what we're doing this week, because we still don't have a location. So we're meeting on the courthouse lawn again. So if you want a good old fashioned, like I was talking about, sitting in the grass, phones off, if you're in the Georgetown area, if you're in the Austin area and want to come up and support and you get to hear one of my pastor's sermons, he's amazing. It's like going to a lecture. Yeah. You came to one, Christian.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm friends with him on Facebook, so I saw all of that.
Oh, okay. You saw all of this. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in town and you guys are listening or watching, come out. It'll be 10 a.m. right on the square. Bring an umbrella because it'll be hot, although there's some shade trees. Bring some water, and we'll just have a good time. Or even come out after and say hi, and we'll get a coffee. So that's that. That's my update. I know there's people who watch from Georgetown, so I'm like, come out and have a good time with us. And we'll see what happens. We're not worried. I don't think anybody's very worried about it. Like, I know we'll find a place, and it makes sense that it happened, because how long, again, it's about the world versus God, things of the world versus God. And he's speaking against the things of the world. And of course the world's going to kick him out, like, and say you can't meet here anymore.
Yeah.
So
I saw
not
his
the
speech.
first. Sorry, go ahead.
I saw his speech at the city council.
Oh, you did?
I was like, yeah, he's not mincing words. He's calling out for a response, which is good. I mean, you have to tell the truth and deal with what happens. So
yeah. Dawn says, that's sad. I was watching sermons online. Hey, Dawn, we're still recording them. I don't know when they're going to go up. but you'll probably see our outdoor sermons now online. So
Nice.
we're still having our sermons. We're just outside. And then Alan says, buy the theater, Elon Musk them. Yes, this is what I want to do. You're stealing. Yes, this is, I've been joking about this, but I'm half serious. If it ever goes up for sale, I'm like, we should just pool our money and just buy the freaking theater. Because I know they were having trouble. And we used to be rooting for them. We were like, my husband was going to do a free concert for them to raise money for the theater. Wow. As part of the church, like to help give back to the theater, and they just are like, get out. So now I'm kind of like, maybe they'll go on sale. Yeah. I think that, and I think we have. Do we have all super chats, Pirate? Oh no, wait, got 2 more. REK Thoughts gives us $5. Thanks, REK. He says, so with everything that's going on in the world, with the agendas and brokenness, what do you think is behind it all? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's always hard to know what percentage is organic versus what percentage is sort of like a plan or whatever. Like there's definitely something, if you look at the World Economic Forum or the way the pandemic has been handled by the World Health Organization, like you can't deny that there's a part of it that is a plan. What part of what's going on is just whatever happens, like Kelly was saying from the Bible. It's a cycle. It happens over and over and again. It doesn't need central planning. I'm not convinced you need a central plan for structures to rise up and collapse. And I think we're just in the cycle.
Right.
And
yeah,
we're not
I would
in the
agree
best
with
place of it.
Yeah, not enough people are aware of it. I would agree. There's definitely institutions, especially international institutions, the UN Sustainability Agenda 2030. That stuff is very much it's influencing, especially in Canada. We're definitely seeing a lot of influence on even municipal policies, bike lanes, how we deal with eco stuff and climate change on a municipal level. It's insidious. It's getting everywhere. It affects everything from the gender discussion to climate to finance. So there's definitely a sort of quote one world order, I guess you could call it. I don't want to get into that whole thing. Goodness knows I'll delete the video or something, but there's something to be said for that. But like you said, Christian, it's not this big conspiracy of just you have to have this specific plan and plot. It's not a movie. This is, if you're a Christian, you believe in the spiritual battle, and what I see playing out is an epic spiritual battle. And unfortunately, the exact same things that have always come into play. I do a lot of kind of on my own research about apologetics. So I followed J. Warner Wallace, and he was a homicide detective, and he talks about the reasons that people commit pretty much all homicides. And there's not that many, it always comes down to money, sex, pride. Like there's only so many big main things. And that's what's running our institutions. And if that's what's running our institutions, then, it's all just going to fall apart. You build a house on a bad foundation, it's going to crumble, right? Whether everybody's in on it or not. So
you said it better than I can say it, Kelly. Yeah.
I do it again.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think too. I do view it as a spiritual warfare thing, but I also agree with both of you that it's just there doesn't have to be one evil bad guy who's right. I know people talk about Klaus Schwab all the time, and I mean, and
Soros and all them.
He has the right accent for it. He has the right accent.
No, he's a great person to place the super villain, archetype.
The costume, he's good.
Yeah. I think. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with anything he's pushing, anything that he thinks is good for humanity. I don't think he's got good intentions, and I don't think that he's right. But I don't think he needs to be like, there needs to be one architect. I think that just helps us understand things better sometimes when we can all focus on like, this is the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
When it's much bigger forces at work, I think.
And I think people who want the plan to exist, they want order. They want to imagine that everything happens, that there's an order there, that there's no chaos. But there's a mix of the two. There's a lot of the two. I think there's a lot of chaos, and there's a lot of people in bad faith who just want to. They see the chaos and they just want their share of whatever is to be gained by the chaos. That's
people who take advantage.
Yeah.
We've got one more super chat, and then I've got a question for you, Kelly. Let's see.
Sure.
Amplify Create. Such a shame because around her 40s, during her marriage, Madonna seemed so enlightened. and her music was reflecting that. She seems to have had a breakdown in recent years.
Hmm.
Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, I don't know. I remember she did go through that phase of where she seemed like she was seeking truth, right? You know, she was talking about was it mysticism or something? Or she was wearing like a red thread. I don't know what all those things were. I wasn't paying too close attention then, but it seemed like she was on a path of seeking God or seeking something. Do you guys know more about her than I do?
I don't. But my guess, if I had to guess, is she probably dove into some mysticism, Gnosticism, New Age, spiritual, what I call a spiritual smorgasbord, whatever feels good, little of this, little of that, little Buddhism, little, yoga, little whatever, right? My guess, but I don't know. I couldn't say.
Oh, Pirate, I have to correct you. We are on Rumble. Larry Crabtree says, is Kerfefe Break also on Rumble? Yes, we are on Rumble, and it automatically uptakes the videos. So I haven't checked it in a while to make sure it's still doing it. It was doing it great a few weeks ago. So no, we're not on there live. No. After the videos get posted, then it gets sucked up into Rumble. So we might one day live stream on there, but right now it's all I can do to do it on one platform, guys.
It'd be great if it was easy to live stream simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, I've got several things on my checklist. We're working our way down them. I'm sorry, we're slow. We do have a locals. This is a new channel. We have a locals. If you want to join, we're going to do exclusive content. I have for the interview that aired last night, if everyone missed it, I got to speak with Gino Visconti, who's this hilarious comedian from Compound Media. It was one of my husband's favorite interviews, that one, and he also loved the Michael Rechtenwald one. But Gino's so funny, and I got some extra footage with him after we finished recording, and I'm going to put that up on locals. So that'll be like our first test to try something exclusive. What else? I don't know. We have the book club coming up. We've got to pick a new date for it, and all the things. But I thank you guys for watching and bearing with us as we get this new channel off the ground. And I want to thank you guys, Kelly and Christian, for hanging out. Kelly, I wanted to ask you the same question I asked Christian. With all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and you're someone who you do think we're in a spiritual type of warfare, how do you stay positive? What keeps you hopeful and joyful?
I have a lot of animals, so that helps. I have a couple of cats, a couple of dogs, and a spider in that back corner, that came with the man. That was not my choice. But yeah, a lot of animals, nature. I'm big into nature. We live in a pretty rural area, a very small town. We have good neighbors. So I walk my dog. I sit and listen to birds. I feed the birds. I try to live by a principle of just creating life where I can and making things better than when I left them. So it doesn't matter if it's a relationship or a task, a tiny little thing. Having health issues has taught me how to appreciate the small things in life, which is the big benefit of it. So it's really just focusing on those little things, those little beautiful moments, a wonderful, loving hug from a spouse, or we went to a wedding, the first really big event I've been to in 2 years, just because everything's been so shut down. There's over 300 people, and I have never felt so fulfilled, just laughing and speaking moistly, as our prime minister would say, and joking around. It was so wonderful. So that's the kind of stuff I focus on, is just focusing on family, friends, the old school stuff. Of course, my faith. I'm a musician. I play music. I listen to worship. If I'm really down, I will put some worship music on and just try to sing and praise God, even if I don't feel like it. That's a big one for me. I have to force myself to praise God in my suffering. And that's a big one that's really been a life changer for me. And then just following people that are like-minded and sane and stable and want good things and are willing to have discussions. So surrounding yourself with good people and surrounding yourself with what you want your neck of the woods to look like, because we can't control what's happening in Canada. And you want to remember God's on the throne, but that doesn't mean that everything's going to work out where you are or in this situation. We don't know what it looks like, but it's just maintaining that faith, which is what faith is. It's a big question mark, and we put our roots in it. So I cling to the cross, and I try to have a good sense of humor as well.
You do.
Because if you don't laugh, you go crazy. So
yeah,
true.
And why don't you guys remind people where, I know Pirate's been putting in the chat, but why don't you remind people where they can find you online if they want to follow you? Where can they do so?
I guess I'll start since I was
yeah,
I was just talking, so I thought I'd finish it off. But I'm on Twitter. I think you put my link up a few times in the chat. It's I think it's Little Goat CR is my handle. I'm on YouTube, although I haven't put out much content. I would like to, as my health improves, get more into my passage out of the left and out of the new age, which is all kind of connected. So you can feel free to follow me there. Twitter is probably where I'm the sassiest and the most active, though. So.
Yeah. And what about you, Christian?
I'm at christianboutin.com. I should post the link because or link tree. christianboutin.com just leads to my link tree. And I have mainly on Twitter. I will publish on my Substack tonight my 10-day ordeal with COVID. Because there's been so many people who get it and they thank the vaccine for having such mild symptoms that I want to counterbalance that because I've had very mild symptoms. So I'm going to do a sort of a day by day of what happened to me during COVID. I'm going to put that on my Substack.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you're doing well. That's good to hear. My mom is the same thing, by the way. Just earlier you mentioned how you got it. My mom went 2 years. She's unvaccinated. She's 69. She went 2 years without infecting anyone or getting it, and then ended up getting it from her triple vaxxed friend who still masks. And the week before she was exposed and she thought she was going to get it from her triple vaxxed family member. So it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
And she was fine. She was great. She actually has a history of pneumonia, but she did great. It was a cold. She had laryngitis and then she got over it. Good old vitamins. What's that? Medical misinformation now, I think?
Yeah, I think
can't say vitamins are good.
Vitamins.
No, I'm really afraid my video from last night's going to get taken down because Gina was talking about vitamin D, and I'm like,
that's a regular conspiracy theory.
Vitamin D or C.
Yeah.
One more announcement I forgot to make at the top of the show. If you're in the Austin, Texas area, I'm going to be speaking on Friday, June 10th on a panel at the Austin Public Library with Megan Murphy and a few other badass women. Yeah.
Another Canadian.
She's a Canadian.
Yeah,
what a great
she's been living in Mexico for the past couple of years.
Oh, has she? She's from West, right? Vancouver area?
Yeah, Vancouver. Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, she just got out when COVID started, and she hasn't looked back apparently.
Good for her. Good for her.
What an appropriate show to mention it on. So yeah, Megan Murphy and a few other women. It's about women leaving the left or the left leaving us, whichever way you want to describe it. And I'll put info up on on all the platforms today probably, so you guys can find that. Thank you guys for coming and hang out with us on a fun Friday.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Had a great time. Thanks a lot.
Cool. We're gonna go out on this video. Here we go.